Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. Now, one of the really great things about running the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio is that we get to talk to fabulous healers from all over the world. So today I'm talking to you from Atlanta, Georgia, and I am talking to Darin McBratney, who is the owner of the Costa Rica Yoga Spa in Nosara, Costa Rica. Welcome, Darin McBratney.
Hi, Catherine. How are you?
Now, Darin is one of the most fascinating people that you'll ever have the privilege of talking to in natural healing. Darin McBratney is an adventurer, futurist, yoga teacher, writer, BMW motorcycle adventure enthusiast, gardener, psychonaut, Iboga grower, builder, counselor, surf instructor, snowboarder, plant healer, researcher, and a strong activist for peace and justice in the world. Darin is the owner of the Costa Rica Yoga Spa and has lived in Nosara for 27 years. Now, today we're going to be talking about Iboga. So, Darin, how did you become a facilitator of this sacred plant, Iboga?
That's an interesting question. Well, I've always been brought up kind of in the world of allopathic medicine, and I've always gone along those lines. And in 2005, I had just been married for a month and was at the top of my game, had a very successful real estate business and juice bar and amongst other things, and was very, very happy and content with my life. And I went surfing, and I came home that night and I didn't feel right, and I started to deteriorate over the next 3 weeks pretty bad. And I started going to every doctor in my little town, of course, and then in my country. And when I got to the capital in San Jose, I noticed I was running into other people from my area with the same symptoms as me, which were bizarre, like light sensitivity, definitely a nervous system thing going on with us. And so anyways, it sent me on a road, a 2-year road, going to 5 countries, visiting with over 40 some doctors, spending a lot of money. I'm a bit of an anarchist. I don't have health insurance. I probably never will. But I got this very interesting education for 2 years. I was very extremely sick. Come to find out that there's about 35 of us that had the same, let's call it a dis-ease. When it got serious with me is when 5 of the people that I knew that had the same thing died, including a good friend of mine. And again, I was getting these diagnoses that were like chronic fatigue, which to me is, now I know it's the male version of fibromyalgia. It's something that doesn't exist. It's a doctor throwing you into a waste paper basket. It's a diagnosis when a doctor can't find out what the real problem is with you. So I got this diagnosis, I don't know, 30 sometimes in 5 countries. Of course, I had chronic fatigue. I was very tired. I got prescribed antidepressants, of course, which has nothing to do with what I had. Nobody could diagnose me correctly for 2 years. I got diagnosed also with encephalitis, which was a false diagnosis, and I got put on antibiotics for 60 days. And then I was basically ending up in emergency rooms in California. I was staying with my parents at this point at the end of 2 years. Kind of like couldn't deal with my work, couldn't deal with my family, my wife. We kind of separated. So after all of this, I went to a friend's house to kind of say goodbyes to my friends at this point because I didn't know how much longer I would have to live. And my friend said, "Hey, you need to see this doctor, and a naturopathic doctor in San Luis Obispo. She had cured his friend of cancer, and she was somebody really special that I should see." But I had this file this thick. It was over $500,000 file uh, uh, on MRIs to spinal taps to Lyme's disease tests. I think I took 7 of those. But anyways, somehow my friend got her on the phone, and I went and saw this woman, Dr. K. I'll call her because she doesn't like to. Anyways, I went to her office, her very unpretentious office, and I told her my story, just like I told you and your viewers just now. She sat me on a table. She was doing some kinesiology with her hands, and she pulled out 12 briefcases in this little room. And in these briefcases were these little vials of empty air, of course, but they had the labels of every disease known to mankind on them. And again, 12 briefcases with like 300 vials each, so a couple thousand plus vials. And she got to the 3rd briefcase and found one vial that had some compatibility with my illness, and this was yellow fever. And she put it back down. She kept going. And then when we hit the 9th or 10th briefcase, she said she put this vial on my stomach, and then she did some testing with me, kinesiology testing. And she said, "You have ciguatera, you have red tide toxins, but you have them in every cell of your body." And wow, there's my diagnosis that made sense to me for the first time in 2 years, let's say. And it kind of boggled my mind, the method that she used. I had never seen anybody do this before. But hey, let's go have some more tests at Stanford to see if this woman is right. Which I did, yes, she was correct. Absolutely. This is what I had. I went surfing, and it came in through my nose or ears or eyes and multiplied in my body, especially on full moon is when I'd feel the most sick. Some of the people in my town ate the fish. Some went swimming, some went surfing. Anyways, yes. So I started working with this woman. She's a naturopathic doctor, chiropractor, kinesiologist. More importantly to me, she's right on par with Edgar Cayce, such as yourself, as far as being a medical intuitive. I didn't know these people existed. I knew Edgar Cayce existed, but I didn't know that there's thousands of people out there that have the same ability, some better than others, but nonetheless. So I started working with this woman over 8 months, I would say. She got me surfing within 2 weeks of seeing her after being basically reserved to die. And I thought this was amazing. I started going to health food stores with her. We started doing what foods were best for me, what foods weren't, supplements, modalities of healing. I started going to an infrared sauna and doing some certain yoga and this and that. So she got me back on my feet and got me to where I could function again. It took me a good year or two to cure myself from this devastating, let's call it a disease, to get these ciguatera dinoflagellants out of my body. But I did it with her, and I developed a method with her, which I call the Global Nurture Project, that we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's how I got. So after this experience and being so let down, I felt by the AMA or by allopathic medicine, which I think is fantastic. It has its niche for broken bones or stitches or stuff like this. It does have its place, but there is other modalities out there that are just as good and powerful, and some that maybe even better, especially as far as diagnosis goes. So anyways, I started studying after I got better. I started studying everything that wasn't Western medicine. I think nutrition with Bowman's College. I took an online class. I studied Eastern medicine. I studied Vedic medicine. And I came across in my studies, this plant called Iboga that I had only heard about. And all I had heard about is that it was good for addiction. I had no idea what it can really do. So I did some research on that. I called a friend from high school that I knew went to the Peace Corps in Gabon. I had some sent to me. I had a friend that I took it with that was overseeing me, and I had the most profound, most incredible, most healing experience of my life. And that got me into the Iboga, and it's been my prerogative, I think, since then too, is to teach people and to people that it's very, very good for all health reasons that I can possibly think of. I really can't think of one thing that Iboga would not be good for. But it has to be taken in a context of consciousness, and there's a lot to that too that we'll probably get into in this interview. But that's how I came across Iboga. I was given the message the first time I did it to provide this amazing sacred plant to let's call it the Western world where I am. I don't think it's done too much here. It's from Africa. It's mostly from Cameroon and Gabon. It's one of these plants. It's like I don't think there's any plant that's been used and has a longer history of use than Iboga in some cases that I've researched. So I think it's one of the oldest plants that's been used. Anyways, that's I think the question was, how did I come about? Okay, so that's how I found out about Iboga.
Yeah. Now, Darin McBratney, what exactly is Iboga? Many people have heard of plant medicines like ayahuasca, but they're not familiar with Iboga, which in my view is the most powerful plant medicine on the earth. So how would you explain Iboga to somebody who doesn't know what it is?
Okay, well, first of all, let's get to the basics. And let's remember that I'm not a scientist or a doctor. I'm a layman, so I have layman experience, but I do know a lot about this plant. Okay, so Iboga, or Tabernanthe Iboga, as it's known, is from the dogbane family, and it's a shrub. It grows just like coffee, basically. It's a cousin of coffee. Iboga does not have the DMT, the dimethyltryptamine, that ayahuasca has, even though I do consider them cousins. They have a lot in common, actually. Ayahuasca is the more feminine root chakra. This is more masculine crown chakra. Some people claim it to be 100 times more powerful than ayahuasca. I don't think it's quite that much powerful, but yes, I can't. I've done all the research I can to find something stronger than this plant, and there's nothing that I can find. So yes, I think we're dealing with the strongest medicinal sacred plant in the world here. Getting back to what Iboga is, anyways, it's this shrub. It has little fruits on it. The seeds are amazing. If you ever hear the doctrine of signatures, where walnuts look like your brain, they're good for your brain. Broccoli's good for your lungs. It looks like your lungs. Iboga, the seed itself, looks exactly like your brain. It has a right and left hemisphere. If you look at it under a microscope, it looks like a human brain. This is a plant that's good. All it wants to do is help you physically and mentally the best it possibly can. Getting back to more of the plant, okay, so we have this shrub. And that's what we're using here is the outside of the root bark. The plant has to be at least 5 years old to be psychoactive. But the leaves, which nobody really uses except for me, from what my research goes, are highly medicinal as a tea as well, for addiction and for ailments, for other things as well. So yeah, this plant originated with the Fang tribe, the Pygmy tribe coming out of Gabon, and 1,000 years ago, or 10 generations ago, they turned on the Betwee people to this plant, and the Betwee people started their own tradition with this plant and their own way of healing and everything that I analyze and I look at and I respect, but I don't really have too much to do with that tradition. I kind of started my own thing with this plant, but this plant's purpose is to ground you to the center of the earth and raise you to the divine, to have this strong, grounded spiritual connection. And in that process, it's eliminating, it's the most detoxifying natural plant that there is out there too. That's why we look for a very strong liver, or you're preparing for a liver detox before you come to see us. We're looking at your heart, because a person with a QT prolonged heart rate, it can affect negatively or whatever. So we want a strong heart, strong liver, a strong mind with no recent head injuries. If you have a history of seizures, we're probably not going to see you. But microdosing is my first suggestion to everybody, actually, too. And we'll get into that later. I think the question was, what is Iboga? Iboga is this amazing plant off of. I grow it here in Costa Rica, and my goal is to become the largest grower of Iboga in the world. I feel like this is my destiny and my mission, and it's a karmatic thing too for me. But and it's fun. We were just in the garden this morning. But this isn't the easiest plant to grow. It takes a lot of dedication. I think the germination rate on a seed is anywhere from 6 days to 18 months. And I don't know, nor does any other gardener in this country know of another plant that demands that patience and perseverance to work with such a plant. And it demands this because it's such a unique plant and such a unique medicine. But it's a very dignified, sometimes jealous plant. It doesn't like you taking any other supplements with it, no other medication. The only times where you're going to have complications with somebody taking this plant, for me, is when they're taking Western medicine pharmaceuticals. They do not mix. We had this 5,000-year-old history of this plant with it never affecting anybody negatively in Africa. That's because these people are already organic and natural. We're organic and natural, but we tend to pollute ourselves with this Western medicine and stuff, and that's where you can have your dangers with this plant. So we should talk about this at some point in the conversation, the dangers of this plant as well, because they do exist. But I think that we have the safest, most loving and supportive program, especially since we brought you on board. But yeah, so we really do our research and really pay attention to where people are coming from and what they're putting in their bodies and everything, and what state of mind they're in before you do this plant. And again, if they're not prepared, there's always the option of microdosing, which is a fantastic option and great for quitting smoking. So
I've had the great privilege for the past year to do medical intuitive readings for people who are considering coming to do natural healing with Darin McBratney at the Global Nurture Project in Costa Rica. And what strikes me about the people who come to you for natural healing, how serious they are. They're people coming from all over the world, Australia, Europe, the US, everywhere, different parts of South America. So Darin McBratney, what makes your healing retreat different from others?
That's a great question, because it's apparently a lot different than others. I personally, I'm a world traveler, and when I travel, I always go visit other Iboga facilities. They have a lot different approach I do. Most people, some people use the Bitwi style, which is from Africa, and it's kind of it's an initiation, is what it is, into the Bitwi. And I won't get too much into it. Again, I'm just going to talk about that I have total respect for them. It's very quite different to me. I approach this plant from a total healing. Yes, it's spiritual, but when you come to one of my retreats, we want you to be just like you were the day you were born, which is when you were perfectly aligned in the universe. You didn't have any contaminants in you. So we'll take somebody who has something like candida or even AIDS or anything like that. But this retreat is not just an Iboga retreat. Iboga is a tool in our toolbox here, and it's one of the most effective tools. But we do the intuitive reading first, and that's the screening process. And again, in this screening process, we're looking at the person's chi level. We want that to be good. We're looking at them from a holistic standpoint. Again, we're getting back to Edgar Cayce. He coined the phrase holistic healing. We're looking at mind, body, and spirit. And we're bringing into this retreat, I bring an acupuncture in to get everybody's chakras open up, so they're open up to receive the medicine. We want to ground these people. Some people are so ungrounded that we literally take them to the beach and dig holes in the sand and put them in the sand and bury them, so they become more grounded with the earth. And it's very healing. I have a sweat lodge, and we do sweats And when you go into the sweat lodge, you're going into the womb of Mother Earth, and we're getting. Let me get back to the reason why people come see me. I think that anybody who's ill, or even once a second, is a little bit disconnected from this earth that we live on. And so our job, I feel here, is to get that person reconnected and regrounded. And so we have, Thai massage, we do energy work. What I'm really proud of on this program too is we do some unique things. I do some psychological tests such as the cube to get to know people a little bit better. We have a couple circles. We do 100 ways to raise your consciousness. It's a program I started about 8 years ago. Then we get to the sweat lodge, and we're getting these people grounded and massaged and loose. And we do Iboga yoga here, which is microdoses of Iboga, light doses of Iboga, and then we do the yoga, and we get into the breathing and everything. And this puts people more in tune with their body, more in tune with the planet, more grounding with them. We find that a lot of people come here with anxiety about the whole event because this is not such a small thing to take Iboga. I consider it a 30-hour meditation. Now, if you go and do other plant medicines such as peyote or San Pedro cactus or these other beautiful, great medicines, they're 3 to 6 hours or something like that. But this is literally a 30-hour experience. So people have a little apprehension about this. So we want them to feel relaxed and not anxious and grounded. So this is what we do with the Iboga yoga. And then we go into the ceremony. I do an orientation on the history of Iboga and all that and tell people what to expect over this 30-hour session. Then we do the dosages both by, I do it by kinesiology. I do not do it by weight. I've had NFL football players next to little Filipino women, and the Filipino women are having more dosages than the NFL players. So we do it, it's done by medical intuitiveness, it's done by kinesiology, and it's done by, I'm going to say straight up intuition, having done this so many times and knowing my people and whatnot. But I have complete trust in my intuitives. I have complete trust in myself as far as kinesiology goes with this. And this is not a method that's used by other people. Just to let you know, I used to work with a doctor and nurse and used to require a stress test EKG, a liver enzyme test. And the reason I got away, and I have nothing but respect for them either, especially the nurse I worked with, I felt she was more intelligent than any doctor I've ever come across as well. But they also okayed one person to do Iboga, and I worked with my intuitive, and she came up and said, this person has a mutated gene in their liver and they're going to have complications with her. These are things that only this realm, this dimensional realm of healing pick up on, where Western medicine leaves off. And this is the thing too, if I only work with people that trust this process, and this medicine only works with people that trust in it. I myself have been saved by ayahuasca once, and I had an infection, and I threw my medication, my antibiotics that weren't even working on this infection I had, and this is in Ibiza, Spain. And I threw my medicine into the trash, and I put all my faith into ayahuasca, and it completely healed me. I have no doubt that if I wouldn't have put my faith into that plant, that it wouldn't have helped me. So, and the people have to have faith in this intuitiveness. I've had couples come a long time. I've been doing this for, 10 years now or something like this. And when I was beginning, of course, this is my learning period. I learned a lot. I had a couple that came to me, and she fully believed in the medicine and everything, and he had his doubts. Well, they had a ceremony, and he sat there and looked at a blank chalkboard for 8 hours, and she had the most incredible experience of her night. So this is what I'm talking about. You have to put your trust and faith in this medicine, and then it's going to work miracles for you. But if you don't, just like with kinesiology and other things and manifestation, as we know, it's not going to work for you. So I kind of weed those people out that don't have faith and trust, and because it's a new way of looking at things, and it's hard for me to explain this to people on the phone. I really enjoy it when somebody's at least heard about Edgar Cayce and knows about him. It really helps things a lot. Otherwise, people are like, wow, this is, I think, because I didn't know myself about this. Otherwise, I wouldn't spend 2 years in bed and spend $500,000 on Western Mountains. It works nonetheless, and I have complete faith in it, as you do, and as I'm sure a lot of your listeners do. But it's a new method, and the Global Nurture Project, what I do is this method, and so I get an intake form. I don't know if I'm getting off track on your question here, Catherine. I'll get back. Go ahead, and you can reboot me.
Oh, you're doing
We're getting back to what the plant is.
Yeah, what the plan is. It's all good. Now, Darin McBratney, as you know, Iboga is illegal in many countries. And yet the drug companies use a derivative of it, ibogaine. It's used in treatment for addictions. And in the United States, the leading cause of death for Americans under 50 is now drug overdose. So somebody was telling me yesterday that in 2014, there were more prescriptions for opioid drugs written in the United States than there were actual Americans. So there's huge abuse of opioids, and it's causing huge havoc in our healthcare. So, but the plant itself, from which ibogaine is derived, is illegal. What is the legal status of Iboga that you are aware of, and what is being done to help legalize Iboga all over the world?
Okay, well, a bit of history about Iboga is that it first came to the West in 1938 in France, and it came in these little packets called labridem. And it was used as a stimulant in low doses, right? And this is what the tribes in Gabon, when they go hunting, they'll take a couple of grams to be more acute and more in tune with nature and whatnot, because this is what you become. So that was the first part of it in the West until then. It's illegal in France now, of course. In the States, in I want to say 64, 68, Howard Lotsoff was with 4 friends, all heroin addicts. And one of them was like a biologist or something like this. And he had this Iboga in his refrigerator. And they took it the night before. They all woke up addiction-free. And so he was an advocate for this plant for over 20 years, him and his wife, who I've met, and she's a lovely woman. Howard's now passed away, but he fought the U.S. government and the pharmaceutical companies. It takes $3 million to even get anything looked at and get it legal, anyways, right? Anyways, it's illegal in 14 countries, all countries where pharmaceuticals play a stronghold in. I believe it's illegal because it basically cures everything, and that would be devastating to business, would it not? So I have my own thoughts on that. I'm lucky enough to live into an open-minded country. In fact, there just was a law passed here that includes all plants to be legally grown by anybody. There's some that can't be sold in this and that, but we have this wonderful country of Costa Rica that's very open-minded about these things, as well as many other countries. I mean, it's completely legal in Czech Republic, where I also live part of the year. I don't know, I was just in Italy where it's not legal, and I'm talking to a bunch of academics there that are trying to advocate for it as well. So I hope to see the tide change, but we're up against the big pharma, and that's bottom line. And I've seen miracles with this plant that you can't get with regular pharmaceuticals. I've seen varicose veins disappear overnight, skin conditions disappear overnight, stage 4 lung cancer disappear, arthritis, thyroid conditions, high blood pressure. The list goes on and on and on. So it's not something that they probably want legal and accessible to. So here we are, doing what we can.
Now the drug companies use ibogaine, which is, I understand, derived from the alkaloids of the plant, correct?
Right. Well, they make two synthetic forms. One's with the total alkaloids, and I just for the record, I just work with the root bark, and that's all I work for. So some people manufacture this root bark into ibogaine. Some capsules have the total alkaloid. Some are missing some, so you can get the total alkaloid.
Yes.
That I don't. I understand that it's a smoother ride for some addicts and this and that. I don't know. I've never even experimented it, and I don't claim to be experienced with ibogaine. I just don't use it. I'm kind of like, this is the plant and how God created it, and this is how we're supposed to take it. I don't think we're supposed to put it through a machine and deal with alkaloids and stuff like that. But that's just my thoughts.
And when we're talking about the plant medicine Iboga, what are some of the risks of the plant medicine Iboga? Who would you not use it with?
Okay, well, the couple problems that I've had have been just with addiction cases and just drug addiction, of course. I've never had a problem with anybody else. Yes. Okay. So, has there been fatalities with Iboga? Absolutely. These are fatalities that all could have been avoided, in my opinion. One took place in Costa Rica at a facility here, where this woman from, I think she's from Norway or Sweden, and she had been an addict for 15 to 20 years. When you are an addict of heroin for 15 to 20 years, you are a very unhealthy person. And the only way I would ever approach that person would be to do microdoses and get their nutrient level back up and get them physically fit, get them off the heroin for a good period of time. And I would say 3 weeks or so before I would do a ceremonial or a flood dose, which in my case with root bark is 14 grams with that person. Again, I would also check with kinesiology and check with my intuitives what they thought too. The only times I've had troubles with, I'm talking like seizures or this and that, where it's given me a scare, was back in years ago. And these are with addicts that lied to me about taking benzos. There's one drug in particular that I call absolutely every doctor who's prescribed it. And I tell them what I think of it. And that drug is called Suboxone. And these people use it for pain management and heroin addicts. But that drug in particular is very dangerous with Iboga. So again,
what are some of the other names of that drugs? As you know, there's the generic name of the drug, and what is that especially dangerous drug?
Well, Suboxone is a red flag for me. I prefer people to go back on a faster acting opiate or heroin before they come to me. Taper down, right? And then you never approach these people with a flood dose. I just don't think that's ever a good idea. I think microdosing is safe. It's very effective. But you have to, this is nothing to play around with, and it's a very serious thing. I personally, as a healer, I don't know what I would ever do if I had complications with somebody. So I do everything I can to avoid that. I am treating some opiate addicts because the states are just overflowing with them. I actually have one coming from Australia, but these people will be on a 3-week program with microdosing, and a nutritionist will be visiting them every day. We're going to get them detoxed and get them in shape for their ceremonial dose of Iboga. I'm not just going to take somebody who's very unhealthy and put them into there. But yeah, I'm looking at SSRIs, which is like Zoloft, Effervex, and these things too. They all can be dangerous. So I spend half my day looking at the half-lives of these medicines, studying that, and whatever that says, then I want to double that just to be safe. But the problems with addicts is they tend to lie, and it's not so fun for me. And I say on my website, I don't deal with addicts, okay? But the fact of the matter is, I do treat addicts that are friends of friends or family, and this and that, because I feel okay with that. But it's not something I do all the time. but I feel somebody needs to do it, and I feel like I'm good at it. In fact, I've also tested my Iboga tea leaves with methadone and heroin addicts with great success, and you won't find this anywhere on the internet. Nobody else is doing this. But anyways, for me personally, the only time I've had complications is with drug addicts. So I'm very cautious about my work with them. In the future, my goal is here in Costa Rica is to yoga farm with the ceremonial center of it, and have addicts come in and work with the Iboga plants because the vibration around these plants is absolutely amazing. I have one worker here that when he gets next to them, he gets physically nauseous. This is how powerful these plants are. There's also a funny thing that happens when you take Iboga too. I don't mean to get off track, but this is interesting. When someone takes Iboga for a ceremony, a vibrational thing happens, and these people hear a buzzing. It's like a bees in the room or something. And I used to think this was the Iboga cleaning the pineal gland, but now I come to realize that it's the plant. When you ingest it, it's raising your vibration, hence the buzzing noise, to reach its vibration, so you can have, basically travel to these other dimensions to heal, which sounds extraordinary, but this is in fact what's happening. We can probably get into that later in the show.
Now, Darin McBratney, I know that you actually grow the Iboga plant at the Costa Rica Yoga Spa, and I have to say for our audience, I've been to the Costa Rica Yoga Spa, and it is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been on the face of the planet. It's on the top of a ridge overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and the yoga shala, you wake up in the morning and go practice yoga and breathe the fresh air and hear the howling monkeys and look at the hummingbirds. It's just the definition of paradise. Now, what are some of the ailments that you feel that Iboga is especially good for treating in natural healing?
That's a great question. For sure, with certain things, it's like every single time it fixes it, and that's your thyroid conditions. I don't care what type it is, hypo, hyper. It really adjusts your thyroid amazingly. So high blood pressure, pretty much always batting 1,000% there. Arthritis, amazing results with arthritis. Any joint pains, AIDS. Now, I have heard that Iboga can reverse AIDS, and someone will do a session or 2 sessions with Iboga, and they will test negative for AIDS. I have treated people with AIDS, but they will still test positive, but they won't have any symptoms. They'll be completely symptom-free, which is good enough for me. So that's a big plus that I've worked with. I love working with Alzheimer's. What all Alzheimer's people have in common is aluminum in the brain, whether they got this through vaccines or cooking with foil or who knows, particles in the air. But this medicine has an extraordinary way of pulling out heavy metals of the body, along with every other toxins that we come in contact with every day in our lives. MS is another one. MS, what all people with MS have is a clouded pineal gland. And I really feel that this medicine spit shines your pineal gland to where your intuition is absolutely through the roof. So much so that after an Iboga session, a person will be calling another person, they're calling them. We do this anyways, but after Iboga, it's accentuated. And that has to do with the cleansing of the pineal gland. But I've seen stage 4 lung cancer disappear overnight. Food disorders, yes, but there needs to be some deep integrational processes after the Iboga as well. You can't just, and with some cases too, some people need continued integrational help. And that's every facilitators that I've visited and everything. That's their weakest point. I must say it's been the weakest part of my program up until now. We've incorporated a integration session with you. I also have two other gals, Julia Malone and a friend of hers, that offer an 8-week online integrational course, which is excellent, especially for addiction, I would say. And I do have my requirements, don't mean to get off track here either, but I do have my requirements for addiction too. And I don't like to see these people go back to their original environments, original friends and people and everything. If they want to change their life, I think that's a big thing, and I'll accept the person. And then if another person's calling like their mother or something, then that's enabling them, and that's a red flag for me. But if a person really wants this, I'm going to give it to them. Getting back to your question about ailments, the list is absolutely, it goes on and on and on. I've had psychological people come through. What it's really amazing for is traumas, okay? Sexual trauma, accidents, you name it, it erases these traumas and what effects they have on us, and we don't even know. I mean, you're affected when you're in the womb of your mother, and if she's going through a trauma, it's affecting you, and this Iboga is gonna go back and it's gonna fix that. An extraordinary, weird way of healing, I would say, and we can talk about what actually goes on in a ceremony. No, so the question might come up like, are you a shaman? No, I don't consider myself a shaman. I consider myself an Iboga facilitator, and a very knowledgeable one at that, and a safe one. If you do, in fact, need now I love taking ayahuasca, and I love a good shaman with my ayahuasca. The funny thing about Iboga is it's a very universal plant. It's not just for Africa and the bee tree. It's for everybody. And for me personally, when I do Iboga, which is like once a year, it's not something you want to do all the time. A shaman does come to me in my vision, and he works on me energetically. And I used to think he was from North America, but he's Peruvian. And when somebody does need a shaman will appear to them. And these shamans can be black or Chinese or I don't want to use the word alien, but yes, alien. And there's entities that come and heal you and help you. I've never had somebody had a negative experience on Iboga. I've never had Iboga not show somebody the truth. It is in fact nature's biggest truth serum. And it will bring your life and your ego to the forefront, and it will shatter it, and it will rebuild you in a very pure, organic way. And that's what I love about this plant, is it doesn't mess around, and it's the truth. I have these voluntary circles, which is my favorite part of the entire retreat here, is the day after the Iboga, which some facilitators refer to as the gray day. I call it the day of processing, because when you take Iboga in high doses, or a clinical dose, or a flood dose, as some people call it, or a ceremonial dose, the first thing that happens basically is your body is being scanned. And it's being scanned for ailments. Maybe that knee that you hurt in a bicycle accident when you're 6 years old, it still bothers you. It's going to go in there and fix that. It's amazing what it does, especially when I have like these NFL football players that are all banged up. It's fixing their bruises and their beatings from when they were in football. But you get this scan as the first initial thing. The second thing is your brain basically turns into Google. Some people have seen the movie Limitless. It's a bit like that, where your brain is unlimited. And you do get these downloads of information, and it's quite extraordinary. A lot of people, I suggest to people to go in with questions with Iboga. A lot of people refer to Iboga as Dr. Iboga and bring your questions and this and that. I think that's a great idea. If your questions are viable, and if it's in your best interest, they will be answered. If it's not in your best interest, then they won't. And here's a funny thing about Iboga too. You're going to hear 100% of other facilitators out there say this is a male energy. And yes, it's like a stern stepfather saying, don't drink that coffee, don't eat the sugar, don't eat pork and this type of stuff. And once you hear this voice, you'll definitely adhere to it, because it's from a higher source, and it's very authoritative. But the fact of the matter is, in some cases, very few cases, I must add, this voice is female. So are we dealing with just a male energy? I believe we're dealing with an androgynous, higher, supreme being, and that's both male and female. And it's female when you need it to be, and it's male when you need it to be. So.
Right. You've been listening to Darin McBratney of the Costa Rica Yoga Spa. This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. Thanks so much for listening to the Natural Healing Show. While you're at my website, catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.